name is Kenesha Cook, and I work in CNN Creative Marketing. And today we are doing our NAMIC Executive Coffee Talk series. We have chosen to interview Veronica Molina. She is the Senior Vice President of Standards and Practices at CNN. Hey, Vero.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yes, thanks so much for joining us. Can you tell everyone a little bit more about what you do?
Sure. I'm Senior Vice President of Standards and Practices, and basically what my team and I do is we review all content from CNN that is sensitive, that is controversial, that alleges wrongdoing, and we make sure that we're having the conversations and that we're being fair and responsible.
Oh, great. And I was going to say, this is actually the perfect time that we're speaking to you because through September through October, so basically September 15th through October 15th, it is National Hispanic Heritage Month, and you are a Latina. So this is like the perfect time to be talking to you.
Thanks for having me again.
Yes, absolutely. So I was going to ask you, so being a Latina and representing for so many people of color, especially the women in the media space, how do you feel about being a representation for Latinas? Is it a big responsibility?
It is a big responsibility, and it's also a big honor to be able to represent Latinas in the media industry. There aren't a lot of us in the English market, so I take a lot of pride in being able to, have a seat at the table and have my voice heard. Latinos are a growing number in the United States and are, reshaping this country, and making sure that we have a voice in what decisions are being made is really important to me. I take pride in showing people that even though, I come from Peru and I may speak with an accent, it doesn't mean that I'm different. And it just means that I come from, another country and another culture. But I'm as capable as others in what I do. But it's, to me, it's not just about representing Latinas, but also about elevating other Latinas and helping them achieve their goals and their dreams, and make sure that they have the support to be confident and have their voice heard. So I take a lot of time in making sure that I'm mentoring and I'm helping other Latinas in their careers. And, my background and my cultural experience, they've taught me a lot. They've taught me, how to be inclusive, how to be more understanding, how to be more open to listening to different points of view. So, being a Latina in the media industry, it's a responsibility, to me, like I said, but also a big honor.
Absolutely. And I was going to also add to that, it's not just women who are Latina like you, women of color in general. I'm sure you're trying to elevate all women across the board.
Yes, I do, very much. It's a big part of what I do, and personally and professionally.
Absolutely. I was going to also, let's talk about more about your career path. So how did you get to where you are? You may want to start maybe the beginning and talk about where you are now.
Yeah, it's been a great journey, and I've had a lot of fun and a lot of, learning experiences. I always wanted to be a writer. I love writing and telling stories, and I've always been very curious. And so journalism was the perfect career for me. So when I was in the university and I was 19 years old, a friend of mine was like, "Hey, are you interested in an internship at Univision Network in Miami?" And I was like, "Yes, of course." And that's where I started. And it's been like 25 years since then. The internship was great. And then, a big part of how I got to where I am is because I've always raised my hands to do things that I really didn't know how to do. But I just felt like it was important for me to do, and I was excited about doing them. And so I raised my hand during my internship, and I said, "Hey, we're getting a lot of letters." At the time, there wasn't a lot of email, a long time ago. We were getting letters from the audience with their stories, and I was like, "Hey, what? You could hire me, and I could read these letters and determine whether there are good stories there for us to produce for the news magazine show." And they thought it was a great idea. And that was my first job. My first job was actually sitting there reading these letters from the audience and determining whether we had a story and calling them and interviewing them. And that was my first freelance job. And then after that, I did, all kinds of news producing positions. I, traveled the world. Another thing that I did was when I was also 19, somebody asked, hey, who wants to field produce? There's a hurricane coming. I was like, I want, and I had no idea what I was doing. I had never gone on the field and produced for a national network, but I did. And the reporter and the producer were great teachers, and they taught me everything I needed to do. And after that, oh my God, how many hurricanes and natural disasters and stories did I field produce around the world? Always learning from great mentors, people that were willing to teach. And after 5 years in Univision, I went on to work at Telemundo. I ended up being head of investigations, starting their, digital news, digital webpage, in charge of special programming, from the royal wedding to planning elections to doing investigative stories to politics to spending 6 weeks in China for the Beijing Olympics. And then 11 years ago, I was really lucky that I got a call from CNN, and they asked me to join their standards and practices team. And I was like, wow, of course, why wouldn't I want to join such an amazing organization where I can have such a big impact in not only the Hispanic audience and the American audience, but in the world. And so, I'm for 11 years, I've been, lucky enough to work with really smart journalists, and we have these really deep conversations about, doing the right thing, about being fair, about being responsible. And another thing that has been really interesting is every job that I've gotten in my career, in part, it was because I was bilingual. So I needed to be bilingual for my job in Univision. They were looking for somebody bilingual in Telemundo. And when they looked for me for CNN, they were looking for a standards and practices person for CNN Espanol. So I needed to be bilingual. So being Hispanic has really, really made a difference in my career.
That's pretty cool. I've been trying to learn Spanish fluently myself, so I need to get better with that for sure. So you were saying that CNN actually called you. That's pretty cool, because my journey was a little bit different, but basically I met someone and it was all about networking. So with that said, how do you feel about networking to get jobs? Do you think that it's still a great thing that people do to get positions, or something they really want by reaching out and trying to figure it out?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, you should always go for what you want, right? And it's really important. It's who you know. It's them being able to see what your work is. I mean, I've always made sure that I do things that are outside of my scope, and that's how I get known by other people in the organization. So, for example, at CNN, I'm get really involved in diversity, right? That is really important to me in career development. These are things that I do outside. Of course, they're part of my everyday, but I've done a lot of projects outside of what my everyday job, and that has really helped me in my career. I would say networking is really, really important. Get connected, meet a lot of people, reach out to executives. I mean, sometimes people are like, oh, they're too busy. You would be surprised at how many people are really willing to give you the time. If you ask for it and you're honest and you tell them, hey, I'm really interested in what you do. Would you have a few minutes to just share with me your journey and what you've learned and any advice that you may have? In my instance, every job that I've gotten it because somebody who had worked with me recommended me. And that is just how my journey has been, but it doesn't mean that it's going to be like that for everybody. That's why I like work ethic and working hard and really letting your, your work speak for itself it has been important in my career.
Yes, that's really cool what you said. I think sometimes people are afraid to reach out, people who are at a higher level than them as far as career-wise goes, but I'm so happy that I actually reached out to you, because sometimes we as little people feel like, well, the executive may not have time for me, or they may not want to hear what I have to say, but that's good that you just elaborated on being able to, come down to their level as far as wanting to reach out and talking, and that you were so willing to talk to me and, all the people that you mentor to. So I think that's great.
Well, there's never little people. I mean, we all learn from each other. Yeah. I learned as much from you that I hope that you learn from me. And, just because you have a higher title doesn't mean that, you're more important, or that your time is more important. It's really important for people who are at the top, or, have higher titles, to learn and to talk and to share with people from the entire organization. Because then, if not, you're working on silos. And it's really important to learn. We all learn from each other. It doesn't mean, titles really don't mean much. It's really the experiences and what we're willing to share that is important.
Yes, that's very, very true. And let's piggyback off of the mentorship. So, you and I met through a mentorship program a while back. How important is being a mentor to you? And I know you touched on it a little bit, but how did you get involved in being a mentor in the first place? So let's start there.
To me, it's super important. And I think it's the result of great mentors that I've had. I don't think I would be where I am in my career if it wasn't for the mentors and the champions that I've had, the people that really took the time to not only give me advice, but to share their experience and to give me feedback. I mean, it's so important to get feedback, right? Constructive criticism. You can't grow if you're not, learning what you need to improve or what you need to do. And the advice, also the advice from people who have been there. So I've been really lucky that I've had both men and women, Americans or Hispanics or African Americans, or like from all, walks of life in different cultures and backgrounds, really, take me in and teach me, important, valuable lessons, not only skills, but also like leadership skills. And so for me, it's really important to give back, and really help others, especially, people of color, to develop their careers, to not be afraid, to take risks, to believe in themselves, to, sometimes it takes somebody else to, show you the road and motivate you and inspire you in order to do something. I mean, I just recently, I had mentee, actually from NAMIC, through NAMIC. I also do mentorship through NAMIC. And I had somebody really send me this amazing note, that he had been wanting to change jobs for a while. He was, having kids. He was having his first kids. And he was worried about taking the risk. And we really just talked about how it was the moment, right? Sometimes you just got to do it. And he went for it and he got the job. And it was actually a job that he really, really was going to enjoy, because he got the technical skills, but he was always going to be able to, he was also going to be able to use his creative skills. So to me, to make a difference in people, to be able to help them, go through challenges. We've all gone through really challenging experiences, right? And so it's really important to me to be able to listen and be able to help in any way that I can. I have a lot of interns that I still, connect with and still communicate with. Every person that I have mentored, I still have communicate with, and I'm always trying to make myself available to help others when I can.
Greatly appreciate it. I was going to say too, your energy was great when we first met. I think that's what attracted me to you, because of your energy and the way you carried yourself. I said, she seems like she's so nice to talk to in person. So I'm glad I took that first leap of actually coming up and talking to you, and you replying back to my email.
Thank you.
I was going to also want to talk to you. So just to piggyback off one more time about mentorship. So if someone comes up to you and says, hey, Vero, I want to develop my career further and I can't figure it out, or whatever the case may be. How would you help someone through that?
Well, it depends, right? So somebody may not be happy at what they do and they're trying to figure it out. Okay, well, what else can I do? So then we can work on, what are the transferable skills, right? What are your gifts and talents? What is it that you do good that you could do somewhere else? Or we can talk about life work balance, right? What's important to you? Is it not traveling? Is it traveling? Is it staying in the city that you want to stay at? Is it having more time to spend with your kids and your family? What is it? There's like different stages in your career. I mean, there was a point where I was traveling 7 days a week and I loved it, and now I have 2 kids and a husband and, I don't want to travel. I travel, but not as much as I used to before. So your priorities and what's important to you in your career, it changes, right? Is it salary? Is it flexibility? Is it that you want to, work more from home or not? Is it the type of company? Is it that you really want to believe in what your company believes and you're not very comfortable where you're at? Is it that you don't feel like you're skilled enough, but really you are as skilled as others who may be going for the same position? Is it that you're having challenges with your boss or having challenges with a colleague, and we may go through that scenario and see how you can improve your relationship? It just depends on what you want at the moment. Everybody is looking for different things in their careers, and so where I like to come in is, what is it that you need and how can I help you with that specific thing? And then also, as they go through their careers, just being there for the really important decisions. I had great mentors that I still can call, and just they'll pick up the phone in a second and I'll be like, hey, do you mind? I have 5 minutes. I have this challenging situation and, I just need some advice. Yeah. And it's really, really important to have a group of advisors. It could either be a parent, it could be a colleague, it could be, a former boss, somebody that you admire. It could be somebody new that you really need advice on because you know that they're really good at that. But it's always good to have a group of trusted people that you can always call and get some advice on those tough decisions that you have to make throughout your career.
Absolutely. I think COVID has changed the way people want to work moving forward. Some people that I've spoken to, or people that's in the industry, they want to be at home and work at home, or either or have that flexibility. So I'm glad that times are changing, because when I look back on it pre-COVID, even though I was going to the office 4 days a week and, work from home 1 day a week, but it's just like, now that I look back on that, I'm like, this is like a great breakthrough that has actually happened, because I have more flexibility. I'm able to focus on personal stuff and do work and still be able to be a great person and be productive in both realms of my life. So that's kind of how I feel about it.
Yeah. And you can always, obviously networking in person is really important, but the great thing about, doing it virtually is that now you can reach out to an executive or somebody or a colleague in any part of the world and say, hey, would you mind having a coffee with me, a virtual coffee? Would have been different before COVID, but I think it's easier now. So, that's one of the positive things I think that, came out of going through what we've been going through in the last 2 years.
Okay, so what advice would you give to your younger self, and what advice would you give to someone just starting out in their career?
What advice would I give my younger self? I think I would tell my younger self not to worry so much. Things actually turn out the way that they're supposed to. I would tell my younger self that there's no perfection and not to be afraid of failing. Take more risks, because when you fail, you learn. And it's important in order for you to grow, you need to learn from your experiences. So I would tell that to my younger self. What I would tell to somebody who's starting their career is try different things, try different internships, different job positions until you find what you love to do. doing something that you're passionate about makes a huge difference in your everyday. I've been lucky enough that I have had a career and a job and a profession that I love, that I'm passionate about, that I didn't mind not sleeping for days because I was covering an important story, or not eating, or, you know, sometimes I had to miss birthdays and Christmases and you know, important moments in my life. And I don't regret it, because to me, you know, I was passionate about what I was doing. I love what I do. I love, you know, being able to, you know, fight for the truth and, you know, make sure that we're being responsible and fair and work with amazing people. So, you know, I would say find what you really like to do. And also don't worry so much about titles and promotions. They will come. Work hard, raise your hand, have really good work ethic, and enjoy the journey. Enjoy the good parts and learn from the challenges. There's always a learning experience, you know, from challenging moments that will help you grow.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Vera. I appreciate you taking time out to speak to me and drop some gems on some people that's interested in career development, mentorship, or how to just get through and navigate through their career. So I appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you.